Okay, let's see here. Ready to clean. Okay. Why is this so hard? Can you hear me? Okay. Mr. Mike. Okay, so the delay. Okay, so I don't know what's going on. This is just a test. All right, let me see here. Okay. You gotta type, whoever's watching, is it me? Can you type in the comments? Let's see. If you can hear me, see me, link. Oh no. Oh crap. Um, Can you try the link that I just posted in the stories and see if it pops up? Oh, perfect. Hello. Amazing. Okay. So I think I messed this up, Mr. Mike. So I don't know how to go from here. It'll just be me and you. I don't know what's happening. We'll have a conversation. Hopefully others can join when they see. Oh, you know what I can do? Perfect. Amazing. Okay. So I think I messed this up, Mr. Mike. So I don't know how to go from here. Okay, I'm gonna close that down. I'm gonna go live on Instagram. And we'll get started. Okay, honey, so let me tell you, before I even got to what needed to be done, my computer was like, we're not sharing anybody's video. We're not doing it, not yours, not nobody's. So let me go live on here. Okay. So Instagram peeps, I don't know, copy that link and join us. Okay. So we are not live on Instagram, everybody. We're live over here on YouTube. Go to the Confidently Queer channel and go join the live. Hello, Roxanne. Hello, everybody. Yeah, we're not live here. We're doing the teaching today on the devil and the agenda. Thank you, Mr. Mike, for holding on over here. By the way, Mr. Mike, tell me how much time you have. We're going to be here. I said an hour, so we have 45 minutes, so it's not going to take too long. So hop over onto the YouTube channel. Let me pin that. Let me see. We're live on YouTube, okay? All right, so we're live on the YouTubes. How much time do you have, Mr. Mike? We're live on YouTube. Okay, so go join me on YouTube. We're here on YouTube. It's time. Aw, thank you. You're so awesome. There's a lot happening right now. So this is our first time. Obviously, this is not going to be going on to the, oh, perfect. So this is not going to be going on to the podcast, obviously, because this is very chaotic, and that's okay, because I love the chaos. So what I'm going to do here, because I wanted this forum to be more of a teaching where we can learn. So if you're joining me on Instagram, hop over on YouTube, because I want you to be able to ask questions. I want this to be interactive. This is like a live, not like a live Bible study. It's like a live study, okay? So I'm going to be sharing my screen. I'm going to be pulling up scriptures. So I know it's our first time doing this. So if you can, go ahead, Mr. Mike, you can't do this. And I think you're the only one who I can see here that's watching me right now on this side. Grab your pen, your notebook, your whatever you take notes with, hop on your computer. This is what this is going to be about today. And we're going to be talking about the origin story of the devil, okay? And I'll tell you where this started for me, because I was listening to Bill Winston on Sunday for church, right? And everyone watching me here, I'm talking, we're live on the YouTubes, okay? So maybe I should just turn my screen around and see how we can, so you're not, because this is not really gonna help you. Go ahead, hop over here hop on YouTube, okay? So let me get this screen up. I was watching Bill Winston, let's see, what day was that? On Sunday. And he was sharing his message, and then he started talking about how we needed to be mindful of Satan. And I don't normally watch him, okay? And when they started talking about being mindful that Satan's gonna come and take this from you, and we have to be in a battle and all of this stuff, it got me really thinking about how queer people not only have this idea that we have to fight the devil, but we have the idea that the devil is the reason of why we are gay, right? And my question when I was listening to Bill Winston was, well, who's really the devil? Because why is the devil behind, and we've heard this before, behind every doorknob, right? Behind every door. Why are we in a war, right? And so that's what I wanted us to speak on and talk about today. So let me pull up my screen here, because I had all this stuff set up, honey, because I told y'all I'm a nerd, right? And I love all of this. I'm all about nerding out. Let me see here. The comments. I don't know who's joined us. If you've joined, please put your name in the comments so I can see you. Okay, let me see here. Share my screen. There's like so much happening. Share my screen. Okay, Erica, join us on YouTube. We're doing a live study right now. Okay, I'm gonna share that. Let me share that screen and make that a presentation. Yes, Erica. Girl, I see you. Okay, so I want us to be intentional in our time today. I won't be able to see the comments right now, but that's okay. But I want you to really consider why you're here today, right? And for the people who's going to be watching the replay 12 minutes into this chaotic energy, it's going to be all right, because we may have to do a second run tomorrow. Okay. But for me, I'm going to take a deep breath right now. Hey, Winky, join us on YouTube. I'm going to take a deep breath just to gather my energies, because I've been like in tech troubleshooting for like the past hour and a half. Okay. So I'm just going to breathe so we can get started. And I'll probably maybe trim the video onto this point. So I'll go ahead and just start now. Welcome everyone to our Queer Christian Conversations live study here on YouTube. This is new. And the purpose of this is so that you can have content that you can search, not like Instagram where you post it and it disappears and you have to scroll all the way down my feed or on my reels to find it. You can come onto the channel, make sure you subscribe so you can find this information. You can slow it down, you can pause it, you can listen to it, you can take notes. And I really want you to have access to my thinking process when I'm going through the questions that I have, when I'm deconstructing, to help you get to where I am, where I'm confident who I am. There's really nothing anyone can really say at this point, and I'm not trying to sound arrogant about that, of where they're going to shake me about God affirming who I am as a queer person, not just affirming me, but celebrating me. Okay. So this is in effort to do that, to help us learn how to study. Okay. How to get to that place of confidence, because confidence doesn't just come by like momentary search online or a momentary video on TikTok. It comes through study, right? It comes through time put in to answering the questions that you have. And so the question that we're going to be asking today, because we may not have an answer, and I probably won't have an answer because this is like a 3-part situation. Okay. But the question we're asking today is, what's the origin of Satan? Because we need to know. Okay. Join us on YouTube. That's why I'm looking this way. Okay. Come on YouTube. Come join us here so you can ask questions. Okay. Joe and Jacob. Who is Satan? What's the origin of Satan? And that's the question overall we're asking. Okay. But what you need to be asking yourself is why you're here. What is it that you are trying to heal? What is it that you're trying to get rid of, alleviate, relieve? Okay. Why are you here? Put it in the comments. Even if you're watching the replay, put it in the comments so that you can set your intention. Because when you start any study, we're going to get into the coaching tips right now. Okay. When you go into any study time, you should have an intention. You should have a question that you're attempting to answer. Because if you don't have clarity on the question you're trying to answer, you'll get lost in the rabbit hole and come out feeling worse than when you went in. So getting clear before we keep moving on why you're here is very important. Okay. So take a moment and figure that out for yourself. Again, Lynn, everybody over here, we're live on YouTube so you can see my screen. What you're seeing on here is just an image. Okay. YouTube people, I apologize. This is my first time doing this. I'm trying to get people to migrate over. But as I'm doing all that extra stuff, go ahead and take the time to type into the comments why you're here. Okay. Now, we're here because we're trying to figure out, now, how do we get to the idea of Satan? Okay. That's what we want to know. That's what I asked myself on Sunday. And I'm really excited because, y'all, I love teaching. And this is like, I was kind of nervous before I got on here because I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm so excited to share this with you all. But there's really 3 main points. And when I go into this discussion, I'm going to stop like sharing my screen in a little bit, but I really want us to have a conversation, because conversations really pull out of me my gifting. When you ask questions, it pulls out of me what I'm able to give you in the clearest, most powerful, like inspired way. Okay. So Satan's origin story is what we're going to be talking about. What else do I have on here? I think that's it. Okay. So I'm your coach. I'll be your teacher tonight. Okay. That's me in the States a couple of weeks ago, being awesome at my cousin's wedding. And what else do I have on here? Here are the house rules for the live conversation. If you don't have anything nice to say, keep your mouth shut. Don't say anything at all. And that goes for the replay people as well. If you think that you're going to come and chill out in my comments with your hate, It's not going to happen. I will block you. Okay. And I feel no regret, no ills, nothing about that. You will be blocked. Okay. Also, as you're here, please ask questions. If you don't ask questions, you're not going to get out of here what you need to get out of here. Okay. You get out of here what you put in. And then also be kind. All right. So thanks for coming. We'll be doing another study probably tomorrow, not next week. So now let me go into what I want us to start discussing. We're going to start with the understanding that, let me see the comments real quick here. Get out of here real quick. Give me a second. And thank you, the replay people and the people who are joining me live, for your patience with me. Okay, awesome. So now I can see the comments. Hey, Lynn from Georgia. Lentina, I was just in Georgia, honey. Hey, LA. Okay. Hey, Francis. Now, what I want us to start talking about really quickly, hey, Positive Vibes, come join me on YouTube, is from the beginning. How many of you are aware that the serpent in the garden in the New Testament, not the New Testament, but in the Old Testament, was not in the Hebrew Bible associated with the serpent? Because let's briefly discuss what we believe about Satan, right? We believe generally as Christians, we were taught that Satan is an autonomous being, that Satan is the embodiment of evil, the ruler of the underworld, that Satan has a will that is against the will of God, and his intent is to deceive the people of God away from God, right? We have heard that story. Is there anything in that story that I am missing? Okay, Satan is also a fallen angel. We have all of these stories that we learned in, unfortunately, Sunday school, right? As kids were learning about the devil and being the embodiment of evil, honey. We have all of these stories that were told to us, but is there any basis of that in the Old Testament? When I go through my study time, and let me pull up, if you're here on IG, again, please go ahead, go ahead and join me on YouTube, okay? So put in the comments, YouTube, what am I missing about the story of Satan, the origin story of Satan, right? What else was it? He was an angel that had all of these organs. I'm like remembering things that I don't think I saw in the Bible that I heard in Bible college, where Satan had the organs and he was the most beautiful of all of the angels. And because of his beauty, like he was leading the choir because he had all the sound organs on the inside of him, right? And then it's why we have a lot of gay people who are in like music. Have you heard that? Am I the only one? Okay. If you've heard that, go ahead and put in the comments. Let me see. Hello. Okay. Let me know if you heard any of that. Am I still sharing my screen, y'all? Okay. Oh, this thing is super delayed, y'all. Okay, let me pull up this word. I promise this is gonna be smoother next time. I'm just catching my bearings here real quick. I'm gonna take a breath. Introduce yourself if you're joining us on the live. Let's see. All right, let me pull up my notes so I can guide myself here really nicely. Okay. Here we go. So the most prominent story that we have about the devil, Satan, in the Old Testament is the book of Job, right? In the book of Job, is anybody else on here? We see in the beginning of the story where Satan shows up and he's talking to God about Job, right? Is that, anybody remember that in the story? Hello, Rebecca. No screen share. Child. This is so chaotic. I love it. Okay, is it sharing now? It should be sharing now. There's a huge delay. Coach K, girl, come join me over here on YouTube's. Is it sharing now, Mr. Mike? Oh, you thought queer people are just really creative? Yes, honey, we are creative, but for me, that's what I heard. I heard that because Satan was one of the singers, that's why you have a lot of queer people who are gay. Okay. So let's see here. I think maybe I'm gonna go on my YouTube on this other page. I mean, on my other phone. I have 3 phones, well, 2 phones, y'all. Let me bring this all the way down. Let me go on my page. See if I can see the comments that way. I feel like we're gonna do like a part 2, like a redo to this for us, because I really want this to be excellent. And I want us to really like do this really well. So we may do a part 2. So this is like a test run right now of this. I'll post it, but I'm not gonna like push it. All right. For people to go watch. Maybe I'll do like a separate private one. But for all the beautiful people that are here, hello, hello, hello. I can see you better now. Okay. So the book of Job, let's get to it really quickly. If you're joining me for the first time right now, I am Coach Yema. I'm the founder of Confidently Queer, and we are a resource for queer Christians who are reconciling their faith and sexuality. And what I want us to go to right now, I'm going to be pulling this up, some Bible scriptures here, where we're going to really talk about Job and the Satan that is in the book of Job. I'll say this to begin with. Generally, what is the Jewish understanding? Okay, I'll just talk instead of trying to teach. I'm just going to go ahead and talk, and I'll do a cleaner one later. Okay, so Jewish people, the word Satan is not a title of the devil. It is a description of someone or a being that is an adversary or in opposition. During the Hebrew time, when they were writing the Bible, they had no idea of Satan because they believed that God was the ultimate and only authority. They were very, very monotheistic, okay? So they were not of the belief that anything or anyone could be in such direct opposition to God that this being would be able to foil the plans of God, okay? This idea of Satan being an autonomous being with the will to thwart plans of God, right, is a New Testament Christian understanding. And with that Christian worldview, we look back at the Old Testament and we interpret what we think that we're seeing, okay, through the lens of Christianity. Now, the book of Job, one thing to learn and to understand is this. We often think in Christianity looking backwards, right? Like for me, I learned that for whatever reason, which this is not the truth, that Job was the first book, like one of the oldest books written in the Old Testament. That is just not true at all, okay? So I grew up thinking that this was a history book, that this was like the oldest story ever told, and this was an insight into the spiritual realms of what actually happens in heaven, okay? From that standpoint, looking at Job as a historical book is actually not historically accurate, okay? Grammatically, it's not accurate, and it is also, all right, not how Jewish people view this book. This book is a poetic work of art. This is not an historical account of what actually happens in heaven. This is poetry. When you look at, and I have all my tabs pulled up, y'all. I'll do this neater next time. But when you look at the classifications of the different books in the Bible, you have the history books, you have the law books, you have the prophets, and then you have the poetry books. Job is one of the poetry books, okay? But let's, even if we believe that this is history, right? And let me have your ear here to make this disclaimer. I'm not here to tell you to believe anything either way. That's not my job as a teacher. My job as a teacher is to present to you information so that you can sit with yourself and with your divinity and with God and ask these questions to God so that you can come to your own powerful conclusions with God, okay? The traditional understanding of the book of Job is that God gave Satan authority to pretty much ruin Job's life, right? And I thought it would be really interesting for you to put your eyes on verses 9 here to 11, which 9-11 is kind of interesting. Okay. Satan says, have you not put a hedge around him and his household and everything he has? You have blessed the work of his hands. But then he says to God, but now stretch out your hand and strike everything he has, and he will surely curse you to your face. So Satan here isn't asking permission necessarily for him to go do the work, although he gets the authority. He is telling God to do it, to strike Job, right? He's telling God in this meeting that God is having with the angels, where Satan, which is not capitalized, right? This is, you can see Satan in the story from the Jewish perspective as an office, right? As one of the, like a job title, right? Not as like the name of a being. The job title of this angelic being in this poem is the person, the being that comes before God to test humanity, to see if they truly are for God or they're not, right? And that's the office here that's being presented. And that is the consistent theme in the Old Testament, in the Hebrew Bible, of this being that is named or officed as Satan. Because even one of the stories, and I'll pull up the scriptures for you. We'll do this like cleaner the next time we come back to this, but we'll pull up the scriptures where you can even see that the angel of the Lord is also called and given the office of Satan. All right. Here, Satan is saying to the office of Satan is saying to God, no, go ahead, stretch out your hand and see what happened, right? Please join me again on the YouTubes. Let me pull up my notes here because I want to go straight to this, the other verse where God gets mad at Satan and says, why did you do that? Isn't that interesting? So in the understanding of Satan, we have had different pockets of Christianity that says that Satan is the servant of God. Y'all, that is consistent with what the Old Testament teaches about this office, because this office of Satan is not operating outside of the will of God. Okay? Drop your questions if you have any questions right now as I pull up Job. Where did I write it? Job, verse 15. Okay. Let's see here. The verse. No, that's Deuteronomy. Okay. In the next, it must be in the next chapter. What questions do you have here? Drop it in the comments. Let me see. can't find where I put the Job scripture. I was thinking, oh, it's verse 5. I took so many notes. Okay, so this is the second time now where in chapter 2, verse 5, where Satan is saying, the office of Satan is saying, but now stretch out your hand. You, God, you go ahead and you strike his flesh and bones, and he will curse you. And then God says to Satan, very well, he's in your hands, but you must spare his life. So looking at that representation, right? Because we're looking at the origin story of Satan, Satan, the devil, right? In Jewish thoughts from the Torah, Satan does not operate outside of the will of God. This is very different than how Satan is seen in Christianity, which we're going to be talking about in part 2. Another thing I wanted to bring up for us is this question. Now, this is going to be a little spicy, honey. I want to bring up this question. So we just talked about the traditional beliefs about Satan, right? From the Jewish perspective and the poetic book of Job, right? In Deuteronomy, the book of the blessings, right? Which is one of our favorite meditations, where God says, if you will obey me, I will do all of these things, right? In Deuteronomy 28, verse 1, if you fully obey the Lord your God and carefully follow all his commands I give you today, the Lord will set you high above all the nations on earth. And then verse 15 says, however, if you do not obey, I am giving you this day, right? All these curses will come on you and overtake you. Here it is again, God being in charge of good and of evil in the Old Testament. As you're listening to me, a question I want you to ask yourself, because I'm not teaching you from a place of where you can't ask questions. If you're not asking questions of yourself in your mind right now that you're putting in the comments, you're not getting what you can out of this study time. So what if I was listening to me, I would say to myself to challenge me, right? Well, maybe the Jewish people didn't have a full revelation of who the devil was. And so all of the bad things they were ascribing to God was actually the devil. That's a good question to be asking yourself. If you're really going to do study time, right, and really look into this to help heal and alleviate this fear that you may have about the devil, which I hope is kind of lessening it up a little bit to realize that the Old Testament really wasn't talking about Satan the way we think the Old Testament was talking about Satan, okay? Now, another thing I would be saying to you, if I was you listening to me, is, well, the Jewish people didn't see Satan as an equal force to God, but they also don't believe in Jesus. And I'm a Christian, so where are they missing it, right? These are real questions you should be asking yourself as you're listening to this right now, all right? Oh, maybe, y'all, hold on one second. Hold on one second. Okay, because I'm like, why am I not seeing your chats? Maybe you're asking questions and I'm not seeing it. Oh, you're not saying anything. That's why I'm not seeing it. It's 9 of y'all on here. You better start asking questions and stop playing around. Don't do it now. That's a beautiful question, Mr. Mike. Makes me wonder what the Jews thought was the will of God, right? So another verse that I find really interesting is verse 63, which was this here. Because all of this in Deuteronomy is in quotations, because from the standpoint of the writer of Deuteronomy, which traditionally people believe is Moses, right? Just as it pleased the Lord to make you prosper and increase in number, so it will please him to ruin and destroy you. You will be uprooted from the land you are entering to possess. Now that's pretty strong language, right? Let's see, Lentina, stop deleting your comments, okay? Share what you have to say. This is a safe space, okay? And I'm really happy. I'm not even gonna call on them, okay? But the people, the undesirables that we don't want here, the trolls, okay? They're not here, so you're in a safe place, all right? So another scripture that brings this into view, because we're trying to understand what really was the Jewish thoughts when it came to an evil opposing force, something that would have the will to come against the will of God, right? So Isaiah 45:7, which Isaiah is littered with these comments from God, which is, I form the light and create darkness. I bring prosperity and create disaster. I, the Lord, do all of these things. In the Jewish thought, there was no power that was great enough to stand in the way and oppose God. Let that settle for a second. And let's bring that home. Now we're going to get into the New Testament. So this conversation is really about the Old Testament. But what I was going to say is start to make some personal applications to your life on how you view the deity of God. Because in our Christian tradition, we believe that the devil is the evil version of God. We think that the devil is really powerful. We think that the devil is listening to our thoughts, that the devil is resisting everything that we do, that the devil is at every corner. When bad things happen, it's the devil. And then we hear from our greater society, Christendom specifically in the Western world, where being queer is a work of the devil, that this gay agenda that is here is a scheme of the devil, because we believe, I'm not going to say we, there is a belief in this power of the devil. We have so much fear around this being that in the Old Testament appears to be under the control or power of God, that it's part of God's workings in the world. Raised to believe all that you're saying, but taught opposite of this over recent years. Which part, what's the opposite part that you're learning, Lynn? And when we think about this idea that Satan, the office of Satan, is in the court, in the angel court of God's God's courthouse, justice, whatever we want to call it, right? Just picture the scene where God's like on the throne and then there's angels coming, like we see in the book of Job, right? That this office of Satan is also present. We see it also in, let me pull it up here. I think it's Luke 22. I'll say, but you'll probably remember the scripture where Jesus says to, I believe it's Peter, Satan has asked to sift you like wheat, but I have prayed for you. So even though it may seem like this office has shifted, it is still somewhat consistent in the New Testament, even from the red letter parts of the New Testament. Do y'all remember that? Right? Let me pull up Luke 22 so we can see it real quick, because I don't want to be saying anything that you can't put your eyes on. Now, I will say when I was studying this, I studied it from the King James Version because I wanted to really read it from the people who have made these things, from the people who had formed these ideas. I wanted to see what they would have been reading. I normally read from the NIV, okay? Let me see. I'm not trying to. Luke 22. Mainly that the devil has no power, is no one hearing my thoughts and waiting around. Yes. Trying to wrap my mind about where this is going. This is going to help you have conversation with God. This is going to bring about a really good experience and questions that you need to take to your time with God. I'm not here to provide you with answers. I will say that right away. I will give you a lot of good things to think about though. All right. If you are looking for specific answers, that happens in coaching with me, because I want to give you answers specific to your personal situation. This here, what we're doing is study time to give you really good questions to ask. Okay. I was trying to see if I can find, let me see if I can just search it real quick. Verse 31. Can the devil send us thoughts? Let's think about that. Can the devil send you thoughts? How do other thoughts come into your head? Where do all your other thoughts come from? Here it is, Luke 22, verse 30 to 32. This is Jesus speaking to Peter. Simon, Simon, Satan has asked to sift all of you as wheat, but I have prayed for you, Simon, that your faith may not fail. And when you have turned back, strengthen your brothers. So here it is again, Satan showing up and asking, who was Satan asking? It seems like a similar situation to what was going on in the poem of Job. This is what the Jewish thought in the Old Testament was about Satan. It was that Satan was a part of who we are, our tendency as human beings to disobey and choose pride. It was not a personal devil that was following you around, inciting you to do wrong things. It was something that was innate inside of you as a human, that if you were to obey God, you could not choose that, right? Remember the scripture is at Deuteronomy 30, that says, I put before you this day, life and death, choose life. So it was always in the Jewish mind about choice. We see that mirrored in the story of the Garden of Eden. There was a choice, because I'll tell you now, nowhere in the Old Testament is the serpent of the garden aligned with the devil. Looking back from Christianity, from the New Testament, those connections were made, and really they weren't really made until Revelation, like until the last book that they added to the canon. Okay, those connections were made in Revelation, and it talks about an old dragon, and they were like, oh, must be talking about the serpent. Jewish people did not look at Satan as the snake in the garden. Right. What does it mean to be a Bible believing Christian? That is a really good question. Because there's a difference between studying the Bible and studying about the Bible, which from an historical anthropological standpoint, I have personally been able to pull out the wisdom and insight from the Bible without getting lost in the stories that were being told by people from about 2000 BC to about 100 AD. As a queer person, these questions are important for us. And next time, maybe tomorrow, so make sure you subscribe, I'm going to go into Ezekiel 28 and Isaiah 14:12 that says Lucifer calls out the name that we think is the name of the devil, which I'll tell you now, the morning star. Jesus is called the morning star in Revelation as well. And then Isaiah 14:12. All right. And I want us to ask this question the next time that we're together. As Christ was not revealed in the Old Testament clearly, is the devil also not revealed clearly until the New Testament? Is the revelation of Satan progressive in the scripture as we as Christians believe Jesus is and as God is? Because ultimately, y'all, the question I really have been grappling with, and I feel like I have an answer to, is can you be a Christian without the belief in Satan? And those last two questions you see on my screen here are how I do my study time. I'm not afraid to ask myself anything. Okay, so we're coming to the end here. It was chaotic. Thank you all for rocking with me. All right, I will save this as a test run, honey, but I promise next time will be easier for us to go through. Also, remember this for next time. And if you're new here, welcome. I'm Coach Yema. I'm going to stop sharing my screen. I'm the founder of Confidently Queer. What I do is help queer Christians to make peace with their faith and their sexuality. We have an online course. We also recently wrote a devotional called In Order to Know God. It is available on Amazon right now. It's 40 days of in-depth applications on you having really beautiful conversations with God and practical steps on how to integrate that into your life, okay? We have an online course called Confidently Queer, and then we have a full 6-month experience called the Confidently Queer Experience, where we go deeper into these topics. And then personally for you, what this means for you and how to apply this to your life. All right. I love this book already. Yes, Celeste, go ahead and get it, honey. I will say this to y'all. I'm having to do a couple of edits in here and release a second edition. So if you've gotten the book, the page numbers are off starting from day 8. So I'm fixing that right now. It'll be fixed by next week and the new ones will be printed. But if you want to get the Kindle, it's on Kindle as well. Okay. One visual made me bawl my eyes out. Really? Oh, Celeste. Yes. You probably didn't even notice, did you? What was the visual? Which one made you bawl your eyes out? Let me see. All right, so that is it for today. As Celeste keeps typing that, Next time I should make some notes. We're going to be talking about what people believe before Christianity about the Bible. About Satan, because we often believe in our worldview that the world started 2000 BC and it did not. And so just historically looking back, what was the belief around good versus evil? Where did this dualistic view of the world come from? Okay. I will give you a hint, patriarchy. All right. So yes, this is Getting Saved, Debbie. I'm going to save it so you can search it. All right, y'all. It was chaotic, but we made it through. Thank you so much for rocking with me. I love y'all so much. I'm probably going to come back and do a cleaner, more put together version of this, and then I'll hide this. But if I don't, this will be what's here for us on YouTube, okay? So thank you all so much for